With us now, Dave Rubin, host of the Dave Rubin Report. Dave, I'm supposed to ask the questions, not give the answers, but I have a theory here as to why we have heard so little from Israel, and it has to do with Benjamin Netanyahu as a student not only of Israeli politics, but of American politics. And he is, I think, very worried about the rise of anti-Semitism on the right, driving a wedge between the United States and Israel on Iran. Agree?
Yes. Well, he's a student not only of Israeli politics and of world history, but of American politics. And I think he's well aware of our culture wars here. And look, if you look at a certain portion of the right, it's hard to figure out how much of it, but a certain portion, which I would definitely include Tucker Carlson as the leader of, there is a radical isolationist bent, which I think you can be absolutely libertarian and isolationist, and that can be a perfectly moral, honest position to hold, of course, but somehow an endless obsession with the Jews. The video that you guys are showing on the side of me right there, that's when he's sitting down with Nick Fuentes, who was quite literally the one person that Charlie Kirk made sure was not going to be part of his Turning Point USA movement. And within 2 months of Charlie's assassination, there was Tucker promoting him and, you know, basically fluffing him for the hour. He then had that unbelievably unnecessarily combative interview with Ted Cruz. He just did the same thing with Huckabee, who did a spectacular job. So I think there are many layers being played here. There's going to be a physical war, seemingly, but there's also the culture war portion of it, and that, you know, Trump has to maintain alliances that are tough to maintain. He created a very wide tent MAGA movement, and wide tents are hard to hold.
Okay, agreed on a number of those points. You seem to be saying that the rise of anti-Semitism, if I hear you right, in the Republican Party is part of the culture war. I'm wondering if that's not underselling it a little bit.
Well, look, I mean, anti-Semitism is the oldest hatred. There's something particularly nefarious and unique about it in that people will say, on one hand, if Jews have power, they have too much power. If they don't have any power, they're parasites. If they succeed, they cheated. If they don't succeed, they're outsiders. You can do every which version of it. They somehow seem to think that Jews are always the sun and everything is revolving around them. It's actually, it's quite boring. My mother was I happen to be Jewish. My mother was a nursery school teacher. My dad worked in the garment center. Nobody controlled anything, barely our household, but we did okay. You know, it's hard to quantify what really is going on. On a day-to-day basis, is anti-Semitism on the right really flourishing in the real world? It doesn't really strike me that way, and that's the problem with what's going on. Yeah, well, because if you contrast that with what's happening.
I just want to give,
well,
let me just give you
clarify.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to play real quickly what Tucker Carlson said, and then I think you and I may find some agreement. Take a listen.
Everybody knows the only reason we're having this war is because Israel wants it. This is their last chance, they believe. This presidency is the last presidency where they're going to have unequivocal bipartisan support. What's so amazing is that Israel, which at least is acting in what it perceives to be its own national interest, is joined by its shills in the United States, of course. But really, its only other ally in this is the American news media.
All right. So, yeah, let me jump in. First off, look, let me just be very clear about Tucker. Tucker is a liar and a charlatan and a buffoon. I would recommend anyone could go check out my Twitter feed today. Someone did a fact check on his his episode with Huckabee. He lied 36 times. There's a fact check there, so you can check all 36 times he lied, and interrupted Huckabee literally over 500 times. Now, that is not to say that he doesn't have an audience and he isn't confusing people and making them think nefarious things, but he is one of a ton of podcasters that exist. He's just one. He's created a lot of energy around him, and he knows how to get clicks, and he knows how to work with Qatari bot farms likely and Russian bot farms, and go to Saudi Arabia and cash checks and make his nicotine in India and all of those things. But that doesn't mean he represents a huge amount of the conservative base. I simply don't see that. The left has a way bigger problem, I think, with anti-Semitism for a whole other host of reasons. Yeah. The right, you know, if you the thing on the right, Leland, I think it's really important to note this. There's a huge pushback against him on the right. When the left started going to its crazy excesses about a decade ago, there were very few people pushing against it. The right is doing a much better concerted effort. And by the way, you know, if you're Donald Trump and you happen to be watching NewsNation tonight, and I know he does tune in every now and again, Tucker's insulting you. He's making it seem like you are somehow Netanyahu's puppet, and that's completely, absolutely, completely absurd. I have full confidence. I'm a citizen of the United States. I'm not a citizen of Israel. I have full confidence that Donald Trump knows what he's doing, and he has an unbelievable track record of doing the right thing. And look what he just did in Venezuela. We got Maduro in 2 hours. Simple as that. So I'm not saying that's what Iran would be if we are going to do it, but everything Tucker says. Tucker said back in May when the original 11-day, 12-day war happened, that it was going to be the beginning of World War III and cost 20,000 American lives. Zero American lives, thankfully.
This interview is good enough. I think we need to keep drilling down on this, because I think you're drawing this distinction between Tucker Carlson and the right, where the right and big voices on the right are actively and aggressively talking about how wrong this flirting with, or in some cases embrace of anti-Semitism is. On the left, the difference, of course, is that the anti-Semites are embraced by the left and protected by the larger left. We can go deeper into that because you have the Marxist expansionist Islam merger that happened in the 1970s with the Iranian Revolution. That playbook's happened again in the 80s with the Palestinians, happening again right now, the Palestinians and the Soviets. The question for you, though, is, it doesn't worry you at all that President Trump has not excised this part, J.D. Vance especially, more so than Trump, but seems to be playing, I would say, too cute by half with the Nick Fuentes and the Tucker Carlsons of this?
You know, I think after 10 plus years of Donald Trump mostly doing the right things and really directionally moving the country in the right place and playing an unbelievable amount of 4D chess, as they say about him online, I think it's worth trusting him. I really do. I'm not saying, yes, would it be nice, apparently Tucker went into the White House, you know, a day or two ago, would it be nice if Trump maybe afterwards was like, you know, this guy, Trump did call him kooky, and if he had said, you know, he's a little kooky, we disagree on foreign policy, I don't think he has great faith in the American military, I do, he's not privy to all the things we are doing, et cetera, it might have been nice. But again, holding that alliance together, you have to remember, Trump created something extraordinary. You know, I'm a former lefty, as you know, 10 years ago I was a progressive. He brought in guys like me, guys like Joe Rogan, people like our friend Jillian Michaels, Bobby Kennedy, who was running as a Democrat. All these people suddenly are on the same political side as evangelical Christians, as more traditional conservatives. Trump created it. That's what MAGA is, because we all believe in America.
What ties you all together, hold on, what ties you all together, though, is a support of Israel. And I think it's been one of the most extraordinary parts of Donald Trump's legacy was support of Israel during his first term, the Abraham Accords. I was there for his first visit to Israel, previewed that for Fox News, been covering him now through this second term. Again, lockstep support of Israel, which I think is probably one of the best parts of American foreign policy and has reaped enormous returns for the United States. So why does he allow this group to still sort of, I would almost say, be a parasite to the MAGA movement, if you want to call it that is so virulently anti-Semitic and anti-Israel?
Right. So I don't know the answer to that question. I would agree that the ideas are incredibly nefarious. And again, they're hacking away at Donald Trump. What Tucker's doing every day in his newsletter when he says Bibi is commanding the U.S. Army, which he said in a newsletter 2 months ago, or these types of things, the constant attack, what he's doing is really going after Trump. So he's using the Jews and Israel as just sort of a lever. I actually don't think most people are buying it. And my guess is that Trump is going to do what he thinks is right either way. He did that back in May when we dropped a couple bombs on those nuclear sites, and I think he'll do what he thinks is right here. I can't sit here, Leland, and tell you that I know exactly what the right thing to do is, but I believe in the America that Donald Trump has helped recreate right now. We are, you know, a lot of people, I think much of the consternation about this is because we had some adventurous wars that were largely mistakes or sold to us the wrong way. What Trump has done is said, look, I hate war. Everyone knows he does hate war. Sometimes you have to fight to end wars. You know, if the Iranian regime, if the radical Islamic regime of Iran and the mullahs and Khomeini were gone, and the mostly Persian people took their country back, and the Shah came back, et cetera, the entire world, the entire Middle East would be completely different. Their proxies have been destroyed in Lebanon. Yeah. The Houthis are banged up. Everyone could just basically say, you know what, the Jews, they have the thing the size of Jersey with no oil, just let them have it. It would be a war to end wars, not a war to continue wars. I know that's sometimes hard to explain to people that are hopped up on nicotine.
Yeah.
Not you. Talking about the other guy.
Yeah. All right. Dave, well said. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.